Thank you.
Still gonna record it, so
Okay.
I'm not gonna hang around.
Okay, I don't know if you can send me the link, because then if we end up with anybody, then I can put the
Alright.
documents in the chat so that they could access them.
Yeah, I'll go around and same email.
Yeah, or I don't, sometimes you can get the meetings, I'm sure they want to get it.
Scott, how did it for you?
Get the meeting information.
A lot better.
Better than.
I had a long COVID thing for about 4 months.
Oh, no kidding.
I don't know, that was about to die at one point. I couldn't move. I could not move without being in pain. Like my neck, I couldn't turn my head, I couldn't lift my arm, like my legs swelled up, I couldn't walk.
I don't know if that would work or not. Save you running back and forth.
What do you got? 20?
Maybe I have to change it. Okay, let me see what I can do. I mean, initially, we had the 20. What? Well, no, it's just that much out of it. Huh?
Therefore.
$4?
Yeah.
Yeah. 5, 6.
Your email.
Oh, yeah.
No, see, I've got, I didn't give you, okay, so there would be 6 and 10, but I'd still have 4 missing. But if you want.
That's okay, we can wait.
Otherwise, we can wait till the
Okay,
next.
perfect.
The next.
Thank you.
No,
That's all good, it's all good because I'll just order those things. We
I
can
like
look
that
at
we
it.
got
Yeah, there you go.
it. And I can't stay, I gotta babysit.
Oh, for crying out.
Yeah, my grandparents called. Well, let's stay a little bit. So we're gonna have like an unofficial select board meeting? Are you on the select board too? I am not. You're not.
Don't forget Friday morning.
No, I'm-
And then next.
And I think.
Yeah, she's on the.
In that plastic ball, I dropped him in my car. You can't make a physical.
And this and leave it, and I'll get it when you're done. Actually, just end.
I don't know. What you think. I've been-
So everything's going on.
Okay.
That's recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it should let that sink in for a moment. Good. 8 o'clock. There you go. No, I was actually on the select board. Somebody asked me,
scheduled for one, so when they reschedule this, then.
One of our board members, CEBE, is
I can't do
23. She's kind of less than a select board in this Buckfield.
You must be talking on the. Yeah.
You know, we got.
Yeah, more power to you.
Can you zoom in?
And then, first, they had an election, and then one of the select board had quit in order to become the town manager, so they had to have another election right off. It was something.
So you guys need some stuff here. So the last time, I guess, I don't know who. I'm just filling in for Claire. I'm Scott, director at CEBE. Claire's got COVID.
She's doing us the favor of staying away.
Yes,
Oh,
she's
really?
working from home this week and I've been out doing all these meetings. But evidently you guys have already, somebody in the town has done, maybe all of you have done this assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
that's
there are just people who were here the last time that aren't here now.
you did this assessment last time, the community self-assessment?
Yeah,
In the
see,
meeting?
it seems
No,
so.
no, I think Claire must have done that over the phone.
Yeah, and you know something, I did not bring any.
Okay, well, I've got all the information.
That's like for the show. Me neither. Yeah, I see that none of us, I have paperwork, but it's all, for tomorrow night's meeting, so.
So you guys were all at the last meeting, so you know what we're doing.
It can be short and sweet
We
tonight.
can make this short and
Perfect.
sweet. We don't have to introduce ourselves. You know Renee, obviously. Upstanding, the only farmstand in town.
The only one, there's bees across the street.
Oh, no, there's, yeah, and, I mean,
Lots of
there,
homesteaders.
there are. There's somebody doing farmers market.
So you guys know what the whole CRP is about. What we're trying to do here is get you guys enrolled as soon as we can.
R&B.
Resilience partnership. Okay,
Who have we got on Zoom?
DJB. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't love. having
Oh,
people that don't
okay.
talk. Oh, yes.
Daryl.
What?
Daryl.
Oh, yeah, DJB. Oh, Daryl, yes, oh, duh.
Don't know everybody in town by their initials.
You know, no, I mean, the people who show up in Zoom are what we would call the usual suspects.
well, that's good, unless better than the unusual unknown suspects, so they just seem
Yeah, we don't have too many of those here.
You guys have done the self-assessment, and normally what we do in the second meeting is we go through that with. People from the town that want to have input and just want to know what. The self-assessment was, but since you guys pretty much are responsible for it, we don't
Richard there?
really need to review it.
Who else is there?
We just have to do those.
Just Daryl.
Oh, it's the town.
And,
Right.
and
Rennie.
one of the pictures is,
Me, I just logged in so I can share documents.
oh, okay,
on my
oh my
computer.
gosh,
Oh, nice.
because I brought the packet from the last meeting to,
Yeah, I think lots and lots of-
yeah, to.
Have a question, Daryl?
So.
Nope, not at the moment.
With Daryl.
Yeah.
Let's say I thought Sabella had sent me a message saying she thought she'd come tonight, but. Not yes.
Oh,
Cold out there.
I mean, well, and it's only, we believe,
Only 4 after, according to that.
just a few minutes past 7, I mean, if people, the benefit of the doubt of showing up late. I come screaming in for 20 times.
Here you can catch them up for sure. So we don't really have to go over the last meeting. Because you guys were here for that. But this was, this.
Those are the priority lists that we need.
The priority, this is the priority list from the last meeting, and the dots are the ones, so we have 3 things that have really come to the fore. Which we can review again, but these may be the things that, so you can apply for multiple community actions in one grant.
Right.
Grants are up to $50,000, so I would guess that. Certainly the energy efficiency and weatherization for town buildings, and one of these 2, potentially. Both of these, one is install renewable energy on town property, and the other one is this heat pump. Installing heat pumps.
Yeah.
The heat pump thing can combine with efficiency main funding. Efficiency Maine has this municipal retrofit grant.
Told them when our friends died, and they were singularly unhappy at that time. But, would you guys, maybe they would be.
Yeah, they've been short staffed for a long time.
Well, it was,
Really good.
let's go over else. Wasn't it just last week, last time? Just last week? Yeah, I called them up and thought, because I thought, yay, turn the heat pumps. And it just seemed like.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well,
Well, we've got a really good connection with
a much more efficient ones. Tiny compared to the old one, and yet. Pumps.
We also have somebody on staff now that we just hired, Tony Janico, that used to have parasite work. So Tony's working with us now on helping municipalities access that efficiency main funding, because it's really complicated. The heat pump thing is really complicated. We've been going around and around with Otis Field, because Otis Field applied for heat pumps for their community action grant. And got approved, but they said, oh, no, you have to get the efficiency main rebates first and take them off your grant, and then we'll, subtract that.
Well,
Turns out our
it makes sense use all your resources.
Yeah, but it turns out that their system design didn't qualify for that particular grant because of the type of system, and it just gets really complicated.
Well, can't we just decide on our systems based on what qualifies for the grant?
You could,
That's.
except that in their case, the kind of systems that were qualifying didn't really work for their space because they had lots of little rooms, they needed little. Smaller mini splits. There was another group that got $2,000 rebate. Took that
Well,
out.
we don't have lots of rooms.
So anyway, there's potential that you could do a heat pump thing that, like their system was like $30,000 or $40,000. Depends if you have to upgrade the electrical system and stuff like that. That can get pricey. But we can get estimates for all of this stuff.
We had some wiring done not so very many years ago. Kathy, were you on the board when we had the wiring in the town office? No, in here. No, yeah, so you see what? Time flies when we have to talk.
But that's something that just,
What electrics,
it could be adequate, but it has to do with how big your service is.
the 3 days or?
No, but if you have like 100 amp service in here, it may not, you may not be able
Well,
to.
what is
add
the
frequency.
requirement?
Depends. I don't think,
And how many units you got?
yeah, it just depends, and that's something that if we wanted to explore those two things. And that be one efficiency weatherization, we could start to put budgets together, we could get
My
estimates.
wish list would involve. One of the things about this building, we put the metal roof on this building. With masterpiece. And that's probably almost 20 years ago. And the south side, which is this place is pretty much the south. The south side of the green roof is distinctly faded. Why? Because the sun beats down on that roof, which is actually sustainable.
Is it standing seam metal by chance?
No, such.
That's the best possible roof for putting.
Yeah,
solar
sure
on.
enough.
You don't have to penetrate it at all, you can just clip it right to those standing seams.
Oh, wouldn't that be so
So
silly? But it's not. In any event,
Although,
and we put in, we put metal roof on, thinking it was a good idea. And some of the old timers, Beulah Brown in particular, was really pissed that we didn't go with shingles because that's how the building had been designed. And what we found out was now it's so smart about that roof and with a bend.
well, that would be good for solar because then it's
New one.
flat out your panels with a bench, which could put your plot, that bench spark.
But
It puts lots of snow on them.
that's that. Well, that's why I have my panels down low.
So these are two things that we could get estimates on. We could get a couple of folks up here to look at what it would take to. This is the building we're talking about for heat pumps.
And, well, I think we put a heat pump at the town office without, it wouldn't have to be a very big one, I wouldn't imagine, because it's a small space.
Well, you said there was a new heating system that was just put in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah, they would offer cooling, and that's one of the things we talked about.
Well, I would actually love to
Have a
see-
cooling center.
Yeah, one of the things about kitchens. I would love to see, I personally think that's a failing in the heating system anyway, but it is what it is. I would love to see it.
Is that running on oil furnace? Well, we could get some estimates on both of that. We can get Maine Eco Heat up here to look at what it would take to do heat pumps. We could get some solar folks over here to see what your roof, how much you could put on the roof. And look at your electric consumption, what it would be with heat pumps, and see if we could get a
I'd
system.
like to see solar panels that can run the heat pumps, but I would also want to see solar panels that could turn the meter backwards to some extent on our everyday electric bill. We have these two buildings to consider, and also we have Salton, which it doesn't take a lot, but it definitely takes sodium vapor.
So one of the things to start with, just if we want to go down that road, is just to get all your electric bills together for the town.
See what we're earning. Can I just do like a 30-second preface?
Yes,
Since
yeah.
Bill was not
sorry,
here for
yeah.
our first meeting.
Oh, okay.
In our first meeting, after we agreed to work with CEBE, which is
You can just
community.
call us CB, the Center for an Ecology-Based Economy. We're down in Norway.
And so, they're working with multiple towns, including us, to help us prioritize some needs that we have here in the community. And our first meeting, which was over 2 hours, we did a community assessment in groups. And we all, based on that information, we dotted our priorities. And so the top 3 were energy efficiency and weatherization projects for the town buildings. One of the other ones was heat pump and
And install renewable energy on town property, such as solar on roof.
yeah. And
We've been supposed to be there too, but that only got one.
That got one dot, and then peer-to-peer checking on vulnerable folks got another dot.
Yeah.
so we kind of put everything down on what we thought was the top priorities based on our assessments, and that's what we're talking about tonight. And where we want to go from there, and we specifically been talking about energy efficiency, heat pumps and.
Well, I would also like to mention this. This,
You have
this these grants in particular have to, these grants in particular have to do with, resilience. In other words, the kind of things that will, for future proof. The town market. Make it, give us some more efficient buildings or, solar power, we can run heat pumps.
Some of the towns are looking at doing a heating and cooling center that could run off grid indefinitely. Like having solar power with batteries, heat pumps, and have it.
Yeah.
South Paris is looking at what it would take for their police station to become, if we have another major catastrophe like the ice storm of '98 or whatever, but
That's
we could
the one that,
run for.
there's little lazy ice storms from time to time, but when any of us refer to the ice storm, we were talking about '98.
Yeah.
It was.
And that will happen again. I
And
mean,
boy,
maybe the grid will go down.
checking on people, just. I mean, it rolled itself out because we were all concerned about our neighbors. It wasn't something that we had to coordinate or plan or anything like that.
That's the story in every town we've been to.
Absolutely, it was so hard.
So what's happening in some of the towns though is there's new folks that are coming into town.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are kind of climate refugees and they're coming in, or COVID refugees are coming into town and they don't have those connections. And they don't understand
Right.
what could happen.
Right, even though the natives, because they came from Massachusetts, and they're looking for away from the city and.
So that, that peer-to-peer network that was maybe there in '98 isn't necessarily gonna be there unless we put a little care towards it.
Yeah.
This time in our process, so from here, even though we have the select board here, this is the last of the public engagement. And then it's up to the select board to pass the municipal resolution, we'll get into it a little bit.
When is that?
They just add a select meeting, it doesn't have to be
But this is-
we present the input that the community has offered to the select board, but that the select board decides what they want to write the grant for, so. It's
I
not.
thought I was keeping track of when these meetings were, but I didn't know about this first one.
Yeah. Well, we rescheduled because of snow.
So for the enrollment, we can do a quick little recap here. So this is the partnership. It's designed by the state of Maine. It came out of the Maine's climate action plan that Maine's Climate Council developed. This is the first big pot of money that the state's put towards it. It's about $5 million to help municipalities do climate resiliency projects in line with Maine's climate action plan. To become more resilient to climate change effects, transition to clean energy, and reduce your energy costs, use and costs in your town. We have to do 3 things. We have to complete the self-assessment, which is this, and we're going to talk about these a little bit. It's this form here. It's kind of like it's the state trying to get like a baseline of where communities are in terms of community resilience. So you've done that.
Yeah,
So now we have to do a little summary and pick 2. There's 3 prompts we have to go through here.
Okay.
For our enrollment, we have to fill this out.
I think each one of us filled out one of those sheets and, well,
And we'll get,
and didn't really want to send anyway.
right, well, there's supposed to be,
Well, I'm trying to say, General there has, we've got some answers in it, I have page
okay.
9, so we'll go based off of that, and then if anybody wants to add.
Great.
right. And then we have to prioritize community actions, which we did last time. We'll just do a quick review on that. And then we just have to pass this municipal resolution, which has the 3 clauses on the front of that sheet. And then there's all these other possible clauses that you can put in there if you want. Some of them are completely inappropriate for Hartford because that's the sea level rise or something, but others may be much more appropriate when they talk about natural resources or winter recreation, stuff like that.
We don't have to worry about sea level rise.
No.
It's not in this-
Well, we do because all the folks are coming this way.
Not in this when it's,
No.
Not this grant cycle.
So that's basically it. And then once we get enrolled, then we can apply for one of these community action grants roughly every 6 months. It looks like they're setting their timeline back a little bit right now as the supplemental budget is being developed. They're trying to appropriate more funds because this is becoming very popular. So far, there's been about 50 or so towns have all gotten fully funded for their grants. We've written 5 so far and they've all gotten fully funded. And we're expecting these to get funded as well. And then, so of those 71 actions that are on that sheet, these numbers here all reference the list of community actions that the government, it's called GOPIF, we call them GOPIF, the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future, that manages program. They developed this list. Any actions we take off of that list are fully funded. If you guys come up with something that was a little outside the box, that wasn't necessarily on the list, but was still kind of a climate action, they would fund like 90%. Like if you were going to do some innovative, thing with storing, you were going to pump water up on a mountain and use it to store electricity, to make electricity or something.
that sounds like something Dan Jasper would come up with.
Well, it's a thing for sure. Some kind of storage, but anyway, that they would fund that to a point, but you'd have to have a match.
Where is the money coming from?
Where's the money coming? It's coming
I know
from
it's
the.
coming from state, Janet Mills and that, but where is she getting that?
Where is that money coming from? It's that I believe is just taxpayer
Yeah,
money.
it's tax revenue.
That's tax revenue. A lot of the new funding is going to be coming from the federal government. This is not ARPA funding. This is money that was in the biennial budget, state budget. 4.75 million for this project.
We have that.
Yep. And that's where we get paid. CEBE has what's called, we're a service provider. So we get service provider grants to help the towns every 6 months. We pick, so far we've done 10. You guys are part of our second cohort of 5 towns.
I'm glad you shortened it to CB because I kept saying CEBE.
Yeah,
so-
let's that's why we don't put the period in there. Yeah, we used to have on our logo, it had the little things over the E's. Anyway, yeah, we're CEBE. So any other questions about the program? And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We'll get you enrolled, that's rolling, and our grants are due towards the end of March, but that may get pushed back as they're trying to raise more funding. So, but we're still shooting to get.
Man, that is practically tomorrow.
Yeah.
February's short month.
Give it time.
But you guys are almost there. I mean, just pass the resolution. We've got the
No, the
priorities
message has to be passed by the select.
by the select board.
board.
Yep. It doesn't have to be a town vote or anything like that.
I know, climate emergency is one of the terms that I've heard, as far as like, that's what's motivating, taking a step like this for your town. And, there are different, researches on both sides of the coin about, environmental emergency or not, climate emergency or not.
Guess it depends on who you ask.
Yes,
If you ask somebody in Pakistan, for instance, when a third of the country was just underwater with floods that they've never seen in history, they're probably like, yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
Anybody on the coast of Maine that's watching the tide come up through the drainage system and flood downtown Portland, it's like, yeah, maybe there's something weird here. We haven't really seen the effects up here as much as some other places, but we're seeing it too.
No, I know when you go through the month of January and the average temperature is above freezing, that's weird too.
The most compelling data set I've seen about this is right there. That's the ice out dates of Norway Lake.
I'm sorry, what?
The ice out dates of Norway Lake as kept by the Weary Club.
Oh,
That lake never iced out in March in 150 years of data collection, and probably for thousands of years before that, because we were coming out of an ice age. It's iced out 4 times in March in the last 15 years.
It's interesting because Bear Pond's not iced out in March in ages.
Maybe
It's
never.
interesting.
But this has done 4 times in the last, since 2006, we've had open water in
I
March.
mean,
This year we had open water at Christmas, which may be the first time anybody can remember that. So if we keep going in this trend, we'll have, well, in 2006, or no, 16, Thompson Lake didn't freeze, part half the lake never froze. First time anybody could remember that, so.
I don't really notice Bear Pond as much as you do, obviously living there, but I drive by, and it's don't you go Canton Lake all the time, and ice in was uncommonly. And even now, I mean, this time of year, you would absolutely see people out there with pickup trucks. Oh, people are not driving their pickup trucks on there.
Oh, any of the old timers will tell you they were skating at grandma's house on Thanksgiving, you know?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
This year, Christmas was, there were white caps on Norway Lake, so we're warming. We're actually one of the fastest warming places in the country. If you look at that chart back there, Maine is one of the fastest warming areas. And this particular area of western Maine, we're already 4 degrees warmer in the winter than we were 50 years ago. That's how fast the temperature is changing here.
You know,
That's the snowmakers, you know, with the mountains.
yeah. no
Mount
question.
Auburn, they have like half the days in December, they can't even make snow, it's not cold enough, and that's, they never used to even make snow.
And snow is so important for our economy.
And for the ecology too, I mean, and the cold weather, I mean,
Oh my God, on so many levels.
so. And we're seeing the impacts, it's just not as obvious here as in some places where like sea level rise or.
Well, then if you only has probably nice for the. It's gonna be.
No, I
But
know.
still not enough to kill the deer ticks.
We still not enough to kill the deer ticks, and the thing is, and we will have Fridays gonna be 20 below, oh my God, and Saturday's gonna be cold. And if you look at the weather, and then by Monday, the coldest it's gonna get is 27 degrees, and it'll be 40 degrees in the morning.
Yeah, they're saying 40 and rain on next Wednesday.
And it's gonna be my pipes not from freezing till Monday.
Well,
In the meantime, I
and
have
so-
to be very glad.
One of the things that I've really noticed for myself is last year we had very little snow, and oh my God, I couldn't bank snow around the house, and it was so cold. I have cracks in my floors that blow out a kitchen match. And it was cold this year, at least, and when we get some snow, I was going to have some houses, makes a huge difference. You know, I expect, if it gets really cold, if it gets really cold with no snow, you get a lot of frozen pipes, you know, every trailer.
I mean, another part of this piece too is that, you know, we're running our economy on fossil fuels, which are finite. We should save some for our kids. We've already used more than half of the known reserves of fossil fuels on the planet. And we're
Can we move forward
using
on
more.
this?
Yes, so let's save some fossil fuels. Let's get some heat pumps and some solar power and do some energy efficiency stuff on the buildings. So that's like, that's stuff that will save the town money. I mean, that's like, they're kind of no brainers, whether you think this is like a problem or not.
Right.
So how do we want to do this? So we want to, let's take a look at our assessment and just talk about, there's one little data set we've got to get our hands on here. Just enroll. So I'm just going to hand out. I know you guys have seen it. You guys actually did this work. But this front page we haven't filled out. This is a community self-assessment.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat for there.
And if you look at the second, page 2 through 4. That's what your select board has the answers that have come out of this, and this is typical for almost every town. You know, most of our towns haven't started really looking at their climate resiliency.
Oh, so this actually has our.
This has your answers on it.
Has our answers on it, I see.
There are a couple things, you know, we have financial resources to cope with absorbing some shock. We have flexible human capacity, such as neighbors checking on neighbors, great community resource. I mean, we can pretty much go off of this if we want, but what we need to do is answer these prompts on the first page. We want to talk about 2 things that you think your community is doing well in terms of community resilience, 2 areas that could be improved in the short term, and important for the community to address in the long term. And what we typically do is I'll write them down as you guys come up with stuff, and then we go back to the dots. And then we dot and pick, we have to pick 2 from each one. And this just has to be filled out for the enrollment.
I'm gonna take notes for Claire,
Yeah,
so she
okay.
doesn't feel left out.
And then there's of course, no right or wrong answers. None of this matters whether you're going to get the grant or not. This is just so the state starts collecting data from all the towns, and then every 2 years they'll do this again. So you don't have to do anything on the paper. Actually, it's just there to reference, you know, for people that haven't seen this, so they can reference the answers, and then
So we'll type up and submit one final master copy.
Yeah.
All right.
that's kind of a reference. So you all know what's.
Let's start with what we're doing well. We can generate more than 2 things.
You can generate lots of things, and then we can dot them and pick 2.
I feel like we've been doing a lot of good road improvements and some culverts that really needed to be done. That's over,
Yeah, you know, if we.
That's probably the number one thing.
It's always hard to be done, but I think it would be the pride of our neighboring towns.
I mean, that's the thing that a lot of rural towns have noticed. The first impacts of climate change are extreme weather events that have been blowing out culverts on roads. So everybody's putting in bigger culverts than they had to put in 50 years ago. So that's a good one that you guys are already on top of that. What else?
I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping our water quality.
I agree with that.
Community involvement.
Well said.
That's like super critical for your tax base. Like, you know, you have water, yeah.
I stopped on the hill. The backside of their pond, they dumped all this black sludge, I don't know what it is, in those farm fields, and I
Ooh,
went by and I go, it's gonna go right down into the water. Down into my pond. On 219, just before you get into Turner on the top of the hill, before you go to their front park.
Oh, you're talking about, Hilton Beatty's.
Yes.
Fields.
It's a huge piles of this black, look, but it doesn't, well, maybe it's because of winter, it doesn't smell. So I'm
Oh,
like, it didn't look like,
undoubtedly manure.
look like that.
hopefully it's not. It's not sewage
So-
sludge. I thought.
You know, and it's not with all the PFAS troubles that there is now, the things that.
Many places that human waste, when you want to do that, by Walmart. I was gonna say, I know they do that in Lewiston Auburn, so they sell. waste.
Town insurance.
Yeah.
Well,
I just, since it was downhill to the.
yes, it does, and I can take a pond out in a hurry if it's got a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen in it. What else are we doing? Well,
Well, I think that, you know, I think it's a struggle, but I think that we have, at least a budding, food resource committee. We have a few people who are able to. When you saw them just pass off tonight, moments ago. I wouldn't say we're doing great in that department, but.
I think we have a strong community presence. I mean, we have a very dynamic opinions and outreach, and I think we have a lot of people that check on their neighbors. We've got people that are doing community lunches here, have done it for years and now getting back after COVID. Our food pantry, which has been merged with the Sumner Food Pantry, is a food bank, really, I think, well.
Yeah, I think that qualifies as food security.
There's something that you guys actually, within the notes here, neighbors checking on neighbors, great community resource pages on Facebook, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So that flexible human capacity for peer-to-peer connections, neighbor to neighbor.
Right, we really pull together, families are in need, or if there's a community tragedies.
Yeah, somebody gets burned up or something like that.
Yeah.
Usually changing.
That's really, I think, of maybe all the things communities can do to build resilience is to really foster that. And again, with people from other communities coming in that don't necessarily have those connections, figuring out how to make sure that everybody knows who's out there. And some people that maybe didn't need the help a few years ago or aging out or have issues, it's like some way to make that a little more of a
And there's
thing.
a relatively small field with often.
Off-grid.
It's a relatively small field.
Yep.
But there are at least some households.
I've been off quite a few weekends this year. So
Yeah, I feel like I should get something back from CMP. For
I know.
One
I'm building for the whole month.
Yeah.
31 days.
I've been to church here, maybe that comes to work today, probably.
You pay extra because all those people work overtime on holiday.
Then they go,
It's like 6 times.
need extra money.
Are you kidding?
Oh,
Anything else on the doing well
Because
that comes to mind? We'll leave a space there in case something comes up. What about couple short-term improvement things?
Two areas that could be improved in the short term.
Areas that can improve in the short term.
I think like for this building, I know these have been replaced energy efficient lights, but for someone that's just barely over 50, I notice that it gets more and more difficult to read in this room. It's our light
Well,
is our
these bulbs were replaced with an energy efficient LED bulb. We used to be able to see just fine.
Yeah. You need higher lumen bulbs, which they are,
That could
they
be,
do exist.
and it would be a big improvement because we have our meetings in here, it's like,
Yeah, no, I can see that.
And even so, most meetings are from here that way, even if we did 4, it
Yeah.
burns more energy, but whatever you.
But the energy that
What
those
the
lights are
difference?
consuming is like that
Yeah.
compared to like what it's taken to heat this place.
Yeah,
no kidding.
I mean, these things are so efficient. They're like 10 times more efficient than a regular light bulb.
Even I have some electric lights, they're just 12 volt
Yeah.
LED bulbs, and yeah.
I run all my lights in my house on 12 volt LEDs, 2 solar panels and 1 battery, and plenty to keep my place like super, my place better than this.
Probably.
I have 250 watt panels, 500 watts.
I have 2 people.
So short-term improvement, like, okay, but that's like so
That's super short term.
super short-term, and I don't think you're gonna write a grant for that. Because it's probably gonna cost you $100 to buy those light bulbs or something, if that, if maybe not even, maybe $50.
gotcha.
I like to think about, but it is something we could improve for sure.
But overall, it could be that energy, like energy efficiency improvements for this building. Like
Yeah.
we could look at, you know,
Or both this building and.
for your
Right.
municipal buildings,
Better it's
look at,
exterior lighting.
look at all your lighting, make sure it's all LED, it's all bright enough. Make sure you've got any kind of weatherization.
I didn't do this. And the one failing is the gas lights in here are cheating. It'd be actually be really nice if we had ones that were on a
Demo.
rheostat. So, that well, a rheostat is a sort of a mechanic's term for it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Kathy has a good idea.
But windows. Losing a lot of heat to them.
You know, myself, I'd rather see us keep these windows and have in service.
I think guys could just come to window dressers next year and make those interior storm windows. Amazing.
Yeah, I've heard tell them, that's what I'm talking about. I think, you know, if we had something like that, just like in here for the winter, it would be really nice. I would not like to see us replace these windows because I feel like.
Is there a storm window on the other side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not clear if they're on.
Well, they were, except for we had some warm days and I came up and someone had that window open and the storm on this last window. I'm like, are you serious? Just close that storm.
That's important. So energy efficiency improvements, which could be, storm windows, it could be the lighting, it could be looking at other places where energy is coming in. Sometimes there's just, doing a blower door test on a building like this, or infrared. What's that?
To consider when it's too warm in here. So cooling side, everybody's talking about heating side.
Well, that's what
We're thinking about
The heat pumps.
Heat pump would help with that.
Fans has been huge help too for.
Yeah, well, doing, was absolutely terrible the last time we were calling in individual fans trying to be able to survive. And I remember that, not that normally we would have a lot of that, but at the time we had a heat wave.
Yeah. And that's we're gonna get more heat waves, so they're gonna be worse than the ones before. Yeah, that's, yeah.
So-
Cooling in this community building, huge, and that could be a grant for the heat pumps. And the heat pumps could just be, if you've got the oil furnace that's new, you wouldn't necessarily have to have a robust heat pump system that could heat the building on really cold days, because they're not super efficient for that anyway. Like, they're probably no more efficient than having an oil furnace when it's 10 below zero. They do work. We have them in the co-op. We've never turned on the oil heat since we put heat pumps in 5 years ago. People say it won't work, but it works. I don't know. And those are older heat pumps that aren't even as good as the new.
Which has a high ceiling, but the other thing about that is that you have compressors running all the time too. And the compressors, put out a lot of heat.
But
So
only under the
coolers.
only under the co-op part, not under our part.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Our CEBE heats with one heat pump. Crazy. One heat
That's
pump
small.
in all
That is a smart.
CEBE? Square feet. Square foot room. Anyway.
It's the whole house.
Yeah, they work. But a smaller system in here would cool in the summer and you could have the oil backup.
Window replacements, inserts would be pretty pricey. Wouldn't that qualify for energy efficiency?
It depends, the ones that window dressers builds, they're very cheap. It's like done for cost. This would be maybe $1,000 or something.
$1,000 for one?
No, for the whole.
No, for the whole,
whole
I
thing.
can't imagine.
no.
Yeah,
no, and
so window dressers is all volunteer run, all volunteer driven.
It has this nice plastic and, it's stretched on a frame, so you just friction fit that frame.
And we build a couple hundred of them every year. And this would be a great place to do a window
What is
dressers.
it, which library? Harrison Library or somebody did theirs this year.
I mean, I could totally go along with something like that. I think I will firmly agree defending the historical aspects of this.
Glass.
Of this building,
The things are amazing, and they work in the summer for cooling too. We keep them in CEBE all year round, partially for the noise because we're on a storefront.
The other thing is that, some of us ladies got together and made these curtains, and they were hung from these, poles, but they are a little bit too short. If we were to put new hardware in the hang on the inside of the window and keep them closed when the building was not in use, that would not only keep the building warmer, but it would also keep the building from heating up. Right now, they are just on.
This is your south side, you said? So
Yes,
in the summer, you're getting a lot of,
a lot of heat gain,
you would also get it in the winter too.
right,
You could take them, like,
open the curtains.
yeah, open them when the sun's shining, but that requires, anyway.
Somebody
So-
closing that.
There are days you don't just go at all.
We might be here for a long time if we don't keep focus.
Yeah,
Cooling in this building, energy efficient improvements. What else? What other short term? We only need two, but if we have more, we can vote on whatever. Those seem like really important ones.
yeah, those two seem like they're really important, I don't know, there was a time when people were searching for a place for a farmer's market, and I wanted to offer this space out in Frontier for farmer's market, but it seems like they're meeting in Buckfield now and they have better traffic. So there's probably not much use in that, but if I could think of ways to encourage food resilience.
I think it'd be neat if the food bank had money to spend buying food from local farmers instead of,
There is some local food that comes in. We get, Abbott's brings like.
he brings what you can't sell at market, but I'm saying,
Don't they have credits through, like a senior program too, where they can go spend credits at farms? Is that anything that?
I don't know, during COVID, they had funding where they were getting, gallons of milk and potatoes from the county. But I'm thinking more local than the county,
Yeah,
if,
county, which is not.
if they had money to buy eggs from local producers who had eggs. Rather than, it's like then your money's staying in Hartford rather than going to Lewiston, Auburn and going.
Right. Which also be gas.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, well, yeah, and I think that their funding is. And having the funding is, some of the stuff that was available in the pandemic is gone up.
There are some things here, adopt policies that enable, support, or incentivize local food
But
production.
it's
and
super
consumption.
open-ended. It's stuff.
That's D3, because, if you're in a food desert and everybody's driving 30 miles to get food, there's a huge incentive, for just emissions reductions to have local food be available.
That's what it seems to me.
Well, especially if there's elderly folks who don't wanna drive at night, don't wanna drive in the winter.
Yeah.
That limits.
But that is super open-ended, and we have to come up with a real solid plan for something.
That's what I'm starting.
So maybe that's more like a long-term.
Yeah.
Like to really develop a robust local food system. And that could be a grant so there's another part of this, so Hartford can get a grant supposedly every 6 months on this program. You can work with it, and they can be up to $50,000. If you work with a neighboring community, you can get $125,000 for the two communities. So there's each community gets 62.5. And that would be a cool thing to work with a neighboring community to come up with some policies around increasing, give tax incentives for people that are actively farming, or build, where you're gonna support farmers by buying their produce for the school system or for your food bank or something like that. Just
Right, because that also ties into absorbing open space.
Yep.
Which
preserving
is,
farmlands.
it's big.
You guys have solar policy here?
What?
A solar policy?
Well,
We don't
not
have any
really
town
how-
hall.
we did, well,
Oh.
we did decide that we would not charge for a building permit for anybody who's building a freestanding solar system. That anybody can go ahead and freestanding solar system would be considered a.
Right. No, that's great.
Which is.
But you might want to
which is
think ahead,
not much, but-
get some kind of ordinance in place before, the manure hits the fan. Other towns have had huge knee-jerk reactions because people have come in and said, we have a 1,000-acre solar farm right there. And people freak out, and then,
Yeah.
so just having some process.
Like we can get up in the dust and go, oh my God, round the curl. So,
You know, and the rest of it is, you know, the thing about the solar farms that gets me is that they'll put them on, arable farmland when there are so many PFAS brownfields around it. So they could
Exactly.
put all of the PFAS brownfields, although there's one place in Livermore where I go find the kids in there and we keep raising them. And that is really bad.
Yeah, that is using cheap to, their solar farms. So
There's a couple people in Maine making one.
But in any case.
there's a lot that can be done, but to your point, you could have in your ordinance, class A soils, like, you can't have a solar farm bigger than X on it, on class A farm soils. But a lot of towns have done a moratorium,
Well,
like a 6-month moratorium, just so they can get an ordinance in place. And there's a lot of different
but
resources.
yeah, Maine Farmland Trust put together a resource for municipalities.
Sans ordinance.
Yeah, it's a
A
whole.
whole citing tool and
They have a nice booklet.
Yeah.
As a place to start, but. That might be. a
so that might be
long-
something, and I'm pretty sure that's one of our actions in here, is coming up with some policy around that.
That's actually sounds like a pretty good idea.
So that could be something like,
Short term as well. Doesn't seem like something that would take.
Yeah.
that would take them
that
years.
could be a short term. Clean energy innovation, set baseline energy uses, identifying track set of emissions indicators, set targets for plan. Okay, adopt ordinances that allow community appropriate renewable energy storage installation, that's C4. So that's something that in the short term, maybe you want to put something in your budget for a couple $1,000 to get some consultants to come help you develop that policy. Because I don't imagine, on your, do you have a planning board or anything like
Yeah.
that? So I don't imagine your planning board necessarily has the expertise to do that on their own.
No, we have
So-
a planning board and we have an ordinance committee that in theory at least draws ordinances based on at the request of the.
So should we put that on the short term, just to develop some solar?
I think
Policy.
you're probably rushing it a little bit because I don't think we have any baseline in Hartford at this point. And we're not gonna be seeing solar farms until we get. this.
So developers can just pay to have that brought in.
Yeah, I know. You wanna
We have-
go into this? You probably know better than I do. how many millions it is.
Depends how far, but yeah, it's $100,000 to go,
It
half a
is.
mile. But Otis Field, they did it. They brought it in many miles of 3-phase power for 20-acre site, a 5 megawatt site. They can do it if there's incentive, especially with the electric rates going up. The incentives are just off the chart for these guys now.
Right. The question is, are they gonna go all around us and skid us? Or are we going to maybe be them on some picture?
Yeah,
And
it's hard saying.
we have the line.
Hard saying, not knowing. If you've got a lot of open land and you got people that are willing to sign those contracts. They'll bring the power lines in, and you can get on single phase power, you can still get some pretty decent size.
I thought that was a good point that you made about, if you was a bit too soon.
I think, I'm not saying that we don't need to think about it, but I'm saying that maybe a little bit, there are probably other things that we might want to discourage.
But what are some of the things you think?
So you think of more of the long term?
I would really like, quite honestly, I would like to see us find out whether or not there's any potential for doing larger, either solar on, as you said, on this building, on some other buildings. That would be helpful, or even like on the walking trail, on, all the way out, where we're going. If they could do solar above that. On one end, which is being done a lot. But again, unless they have the lines, unless they can
Only just over the road itself?
it would be over the trail or over the edge of just, it'd be right at the edge of the trail. And you could do the long, slightly shaded trail and you have every access to go. But again, unless you have a big transmission amount and do the 3-phase lines to come in. They're
You
not
can
gonna
do 200 kilowatts on single phase power.
Pardon?
You can do a 200 kilowatt system on single phase power, and that's like many hundreds of panels. That's about 500 and something panels. So anything like a rooftop like this or something that you're talking about, you could put a tracker farm with 20 trackers and still be on single phase power. It's just these big industrial ones that you need the 3-phase. Because we're looking at siting when it's, and Revision Energy cited to 199.7 kilowatts, because that's how much you can get on single phase and not have to have it engineered.
The ones.
And how do we find that what is available in terms of adding to the grid?
So if you wanted, if you had a site like this, we can get a solar installer or two up here. We can get Revision Energy, we can get Garble Cane, we can get Pine Tree Solar to come and look at your site and look at, they have some pretty robust grid maps. And then there's this siting tool that Renee mentioned too, that you can have access to these overlays, and it shows you where the grid is and where there's room for more power to go on the grid.
Well, that's certainly something that directly affects our town budget and supporting this building long term.
Yeah, and the return on investment just this month went off the chart because electricity rates, CMP rates went up 49%.
They don't just go into the grid.
The other thing is, now, I don't know if the agreements or anything what they were, but a few years back, I know Revision Solar was offering to install this at their cost, and after 7 years, you get to buy it back at used panel prices. Yeah. Does that ring a bell to you?
I do remember, yeah, I know.
I don't know if they're still doing that, but at one point it was like, oh, we could do this for nothing. Seriously?
Well, what you're paying for electricity would pay it off pretty fast. And there will be more. I mean, there's a grant here. Like, if that's what you wanted to do. South Paris putting $40,000 solar system on their police station. Their electric bill is going to be $1,000, and they will have no electric bill for
$1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month.
Eliminated.
It was $600 a month last year. It just went up 50%. So that's $900 electric bill on that building. That system that costs $40,000, $40-something thousand to put up there, which the state is paying for, will pay that electric bill.
I don't know a lot about solar, but if we were to put panels up here, would it be able to produce electricity if we don't use as much here for both buildings?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I could see that.
It's
That would be enough electricity for both of these buildings, plus the solar gen, plus actually probably quite a bit more.
Well, you would want to size it. That's why I'm saying job one is to get your electric bills together and see what your usage is. Plan on, are we going to put an EV charger? Are we going to put heat pumps? And look at, where you could use that power in the short term. But one system, you can put as many, you can assign as many meters to it as you want.
This time, but I don't expect it to stay that way. Even most people in town have their own chargers. On the other hand, having a charger here near the municipal buildings would actually put the town of Hartford on the map. Maybe not every map, but on the EV map.
It would put it on the EV map, and like having.
But we got nothing to offer them besides the charging station. We don't.
Except that, like I have a tiny little EV. I have like the tiniest EV in the world with a tiny battery. And I've been in situations where one night I was coming back from Green and I got in, like the temperature dropped, I got in a snowstorm. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it home. And I was like, okay, I got a coat, I'm gonna have to ditch the car and hike. And this was before we put the one in Buckfield. And because it took me 40% of my battery to get where I was going, and I figured I had 40% to get back, and snowstorm, traction control, all of a sudden, I'm gonna die out here, like if I was not, ready to just, ditch my car and hike. But for people that, like it could, you could save somebody's life. We put one in the Buckfield behind the town office.
Yeah.
There's,
I think that's a good idea.
it hardly ever gets used.
That's coming.
Well, no, some people wouldn't know about it, but for people who have EVs, there's like, there's a map on the app, right?
Oh, yeah.
But
You can have-
EV stations, I mean, they approach the Big Apple stores, and it's not, we have so few parking spaces. We can't afford to have someone sitting there for the next hour charging a car, and taking up that space.
If you don't have the space, it
We're
doesn't make
not like a
sense.
big.
Like
urban
Hannaford's
area.
really gotten on it. They're putting charge point chargers all over the Hannaford stores.
Oh, sure.
And they make money on it. I mean, it pays off with them.
Because people, you don't just, they don't population, you don't just plug in, you go there and put your credit card in, then you plug in, right? So like a gas station.
Like, what I mean is.
I take my phone and I hold it up to the thing and it turns on and then it tells me how much I've put on my car and how much it's costing and I can just watch it while I'm grocery shopping or whatever, yeah.
But I mean, Hanford, we've got something to do while we're there.
So Buckfield, ideally, you got the library, you got Tilton's, you got the post office, so you got.
The Big Apple would be tricky. You would want to have DC fast charging, so people don't have to be there that long and they'll charge and they'll come in and they'll, buy a few things and they'll sit in their car for 20 minutes and then they'll go.
It's once, I mean, unless it's one of our bigger stores, which we don't have, we've got a lot of smaller stores, that's the company road.
It's just, that's true, there's no entertainment.
Maybe it's not.
Although, if we station out here, somebody could vote, what we do have is open Wi-Fi.
Right.
I mean, it's.
Oh,
you know,
people have parking books in
There would,
here,
they use-
Wi-Fi, they don't use it in this town, and I don't know, I just don't think that,
It's kind of just like it's a port in a storm, if somebody's coming through and they're trying to get through and somebody's on the charger in Buckfield, and they're like, oh my God, I can't get to Bethel, I can't get to Norway.
Yep.
And they can charge for half an hour, keep their heat on, so they're not gonna freeze to death.
My personal thinking is that, I mean, especially assuming that it was put into the grant, that it's not gonna cost us. Well,
Right.
anything. Really, I mean, if people use wave their phone. at it,
Well, see, that's an expensive operation and it probably would never pay off here. Because not enough people are gonna stop. What I would do here is just put a small free charger on the side of the building. And just say,
Yeah, so.
you're gonna have the power anyway. You could probably generate surplus power, so it wouldn't cost you anything to have it. To power the thing, but it would just be for like, basically for emergencies. Somebody buys an EV in the town and they're coming to the, they haven't put their charger in at home, but to your point, like everybody charges at home. It's not for the people in your town. It's really for like visitors
So.
or that emergency.
I know one in town, and it's in the charger.
we, regular. Listening right now.
You just plug it into.
But you have like a level 1 charger that you just plug into an outlet and
We
plug into
just
the car.
plug into the house.
Yep.
You just run an extension cord?
My sister does, no, and they have their own little charge things, they don't literally go and have a.
You put about 3 or 4 miles an hour.
And charging we're talking about is something that.
She's got level 1. I'm talking about level 2. And level 3 is the DC fast charging that you would, like a company like Big Apple would say, we're gonna put in DC fast chargers in our bigger stores and do it as a, because there's money to be made on that stuff.
Something I was rather that I was listening to, it had to do with gas stations, and that was what they're doing is they're putting in their yards, they're putting in a fast charger.
Oh, look at the one in Bethel. They put 8.
So it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they put 8 Tesla chargers in there. And they're making money off of
And
it.
then
That's
it's
bad.
been not here all night. I wonder if we want to move on to dots.
Well, then we gotta do the long term.
Right, so
And long term was maybe solar policy.
Yep, and we robust local
Thank
foods,
you.
robust local food systems, can you add those?
And
two?
I think that EV chargers.
And EV chargers.
Long term,
Yeah.
it's not something we need tomorrow.
It's the way of the future.
Oh my God.
We gotta.
And it's
System.
eventually bottom out that, right, process it until there's no more gas. But, which, it's coming until it's too expensive.
You have to figure out how to make roads without oil.
How to make roads without oil, yeah.
EV charging, put solar policy and,
I don't know, electrical grid without propane. There's lots of issues right now. Technology is not caught up.
Oh, no.
So we'll get our dots back out. Everybody get.
Solar panels on dogs.
3 dots.
Solar panels.
3 dots, one for each category. Yeah, building those roads is gonna be a
Thank you.
big challenge.
We pay an enormous amount of credit card fees.
So we're gonna.
Some of the bottom pieces.
So they don't use credit cards.
What's that?
They don't use credit cards on any of it. I
Dots.
mean,
Sure.
it's all through an app. Use an app.
I understand the app part, because if we're paying with Apple Pay and
Right.
everything else, but you still have to have the technology and continue to update it and for security functions, so that someone doesn't come to the town of Hartford
Right.
and
So we're going through
Right.
charge
It's
point.
a lot.
So the ones we're setting up in other places, like Norway just is doing it in South Paris, it's through charge point and they've got all the technology.
Yeah.
And we just pay them for that service. And the state's actually paying the first 5 years on this efficiency main grant that we've got. But that's how it's working. It's all Wi-Fi technology.
So we're choosing two things we're doing well. As a group, we're choosing two things we're doing well, two things for short-term improvement. The long-term one doesn't actually specify how many things, but so we should get one dot.
Oh, so
per
we're gonna put the
county.
next one.
You-
Well, you put a dot on each. And
Yeah.
we'll, at least just for a moment,
Rises
we'll
to the top.
put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that get the most dots win.
Well, it seems to me that the green ones, the things that we're doing well, we're all set with. So.
Well,
But you need to
It
pick
does
two,
this.
just to put on our enrollment. We
So
want
it's
to put
what two things.
two
each
things
community
with
doing well.
the community's doing well.
Dot.
But put the three dots and what if I?
You gotta put one dot in each category, so I'm gonna put.
I can't put dots. She can only do this because she lives here.
I
I got to do it in Otisfield. Oh, we forgot about Daryl over there.
No, I didn't forget about him.
I've been-
Oh, he added.
I've been watching.
Well, the document on social media,
Oh, so you're.
so I'll put a dot.
we can have on dots. Yeah.
Oh, we got dots for Daryl. We can-
No, that's.
You want me to put your dot where you want to put them?
I don't have any specifics there.
Well, one of them was around.
I wouldn't slide on that. Actually, Lincoln, I didn't go to that long today. Lincoln, Brewer, Bangor. My next one will be Greenville, and then come back down. Just tell me again. I'm trying to get all 72 in the next 3 weeks, so I'll go down.
What's your dot?
I run the rewards program, so prior to last March, if you think of Big Apple store, they talked to you at the pump. That was my voice.
That was
You muted, yeah, that was me. So I can tell I get your points. Have you done?
Are you the one, you're the voice? Oh my God, I always said you.
I used to say, oh yeah, my ex-husband did too, you know what, long as you buying gas, and pay my stuff.
I remember.
Yeah, so now I mean,
Back
back
in
in
the
our
voice.
voice. Now to compete with our huge competitors, we pay people 2 cents on every dollar they spend in the store, we give them money on their rewards card, and they can just go spend it in the store.
I know what the rewards card is, wrong about it. I'll buy enough gas to.
It's not, we say you do 3 cents an hour at pump, and it's not attached to a credit card, you don't give us a account, like.
Oh, wait, we're not, no credit check.
There's-
So I guess we're good.
It's a thank you card.
We're gonna do municipal resolution and there's.
Oh,
and there's snack.
You need some more dots.
Gas.
Oh, no.
So municipal resolution, has everybody looked at that? These are, you guys have seen this, but those are the 3 whereases on the front that have to be on there. And then if there's any we want to add from the back. That just to make it more inclusive, that's an option too.
So we have to choose a name, choose a name a specific municipal staff position or name an existing or newly established committee.
Say that,
I'm looking at the low light, in the 3rd resolution. 3rd paragraph. Choose A or B. name a specific municipal staff position, we have one municipal staff position.
Yeah, somebody has to be like. some-
Contact
Yeah,
person.
you need a contact person. To put in our enrollment,
Well, all I can
and
say,
it could
all I can
be,
say from this point is that this is what happens when you're not.
Let's just vote right now. I vote for. Yeah.
it could also be just a staff position, like it could be your town clerk or something. Oh, that's not it. Okay.
Maybe you should be our tax collector.
Same person.
Same person.
Really?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Well, there's several, Otisfield and Woodstock chose to form, well, Woodstock already had one, but chose to form.
There was
committees
a
that- I
really-
don't know what to call it, climate conservation
Climate
committee,
resilience. Yeah, Otisfield has a resiliency committee.
or there's a
so
climate
contact-
committee now.
Well, if we could fill all the positions on committees we have now, we'd be doing really well.
Well, maybe more people would.
But
want
for
to
your
be climate committee
purposes-
Oh, I'm in cemetery.
You'd be pretty active.
The cemetery.
People are dying to get on that committee.
Wait, you shut up.
Yeah, no.
6:30, it's like almost 4.
So any of these things appealing in terms of. Like, it seems like you guys are pretty stoked up on investing in energy efficiency and weatherization improvements, is proven to lower municipal electricity expenses. Making buildings more comfortable for employees and election officials. Adding that in there, you could.
Well,
add
there's
some-
points at that particular moment.
You could even add that in there, make more comfortable for employees and election officials. If you can make up other things if you want. These are optional statements. You can embellish whatever you want. But not necessary to choose any of them.
High heat emergencies, why don't they just say heat waves for God's sake? You know,
Maybe some heat waves aren't emergencies as much as another. The second one,
Community infrastructure resilience will protect people, preserve businesses, and economy, and reduce the impact and cost of natural disasters.
yeah,
Simple, plain, straightforward. And if you like the third one as well, you know, add that one to it if you really feel like it's been helpful.
well, that would be 5 in all, because the first 3 are required statements, so any others add on from there. No, I agree, I think that's right.
that seemed to be right in line with the discussion.
I mean, some of these others are certainly true enough.
Well, at the end of the day, it's really up to your select board
Oh,
to decide what you want to have in that, but you do have to pass that resolution so we can get you enrolled. We've done the community self-assessment, we've done this. And I feel like there's not a lot of reason to really revisit this, because these are the things that we keep talking about: energy efficiency and weatherization, heat pumps, and renewable energy on site. And the next step would be to we can get the ball rolling and get Tony, who works for us, on getting those estimates.
When you us to pass this.
The sooner the better. Like your next select board meeting would be
well,
awesome.
Tomorrow.
Oh, it could be in 2 weeks. But that's,
This one? It's seven to seven, you want.
On this, if you want,
So
then
that
we could use it as a draft.
What's on it?
Right, so each one.
Some sort of
A two.
thing that we said draft and then pull it around. If you want.
So last time we just picked that.
It says select board.
yeah,
Yeah.
You guys can decide if you like it or not.
I mean, technically, you can't work decisions
Thank
in
you.
a workshop, but, I think I lean towards, because we're only talking about, having somebody to be the contact person.
Oh, I was just thinking,
well, there's that, but
you have to Right, right.
No, I think what you're saying is we have to do 3 to 5, we have to put 3 to 5 actions in this cooling role.
Right.
And then in terms of the grant, we can decide
The
exactly,
first three are required, and then the others, if we wanted to add another couple of whereas.
that's the resolution. But to get you enrolled, we also have to, we have to specify 3 to 5 priorities in the community, which we've done, and we can put those on as priorities.
Yeah.
Once you look at all the estimates we get, you might say, well, we're gonna do the heat pumps because we can get efficiency main, we're gonna do part of our solar, you know, we're gonna install the X amount of solar, or we're gonna wait on the heat pumps and do the solar first and then do the heat pumps when we can get. We just have to look at how that's gonna play out. But I bet you with it, if we can get this to work with efficiency mains rebates, you could probably get the heat pumps and enough solar to run the heat pumps, but you could also put enough, just as much solar as you can, maybe size the inverter so you can add more panels in the next round or something.
That's what I'm thinking is, you know, I would think we want as many panels up there as we get, or that we could possibly manage, just because. I mean, I like the idea of trying to read that ones, I know it doesn't. Really work
But
that
look,
way,
but look at your electric bills. You may not even need all that power, the whole time,
Those are not trees.
right?
So you're talking generating income in the town.
But you can't do that. They won't pay you. CNP will not pay you for your.
If you don't believe bills right now versus if you're talking about putting in heat pumps in this
Right.
building. Both for winter time and
And
also
for summer.
Summer, big deal, we're talking about cooling. And in some ways, it may be more important to have cooling facilities here for people. Because people are not used to seeing what happens in the summer these days.
Boils.
And it gets way, way, way too hot, and if you have to be in the building, or if you can set up as a cooling place that people can come to. People like to be able to afford to run their own air conditioners with the cost. And so for that reason, you know,
Who has an air?
I don't think you're going to have so much solar, you can't use it. I think people use probably as much as you can come up with, and they certainly put up this building, I don't know if you would put on the town office or not. But again, you would want to have a heat pump for the town office potential.
You could keep that building. Could, the whole building.
And when we get the estimates for the heat pumps, like Maine Eco Heat, they'll give you like your,
And get rid of.
how much energy you're gonna consume. Like this is gonna use this amount of kilowatt hours. If you run it, you'd have to have some conversations about, you're not gonna run it every day in the summer if people aren't here. But when you are running it, and the same with the winter time, you'll be offsetting, it won't be your sole heat, but they can give you a pretty good projection on your consumption, and then try to scale the solar to it. But you may be able to do, like, get all your heat pumps in, put as much solar as you can, but scale your inverters so that you can, the next round, you can.
Next question, or if you're getting battery. So you can-
Well, that's another, storage is a whole other,
That is a whole nother-
but you don't need that to run any of this stuff.
No, we don't.
Well, well, yeah, but.
Yes, so then that,
Here's the thing, there was a Homeland Security grant shortly after Katrina, a lot of money's been down to towns for building a different kind of resilience. But we have a propane generator in a little shed attached to this other building that comes on automatically whenever the power goes out.
Mhm.
Now, it can run out of propane, and it has
sure,
before. When we had days, multiple days and over a weekend, and nobody was really paying attention. That was before we installed a bigger tank or a second tank or whatever we did. But in any case, so if we had a grid tied system and the grid goes down, that is the thing. We put all this money into a solar system and the grid tied, grid goes down and we still don't have.
you still don't have power unless you put some batteries in.
Strikes me as like reason.
Crazy.
But yeah, but in any case, in our case, we can still probably run our heat pumps on the generator. It's a very massive machine. I mean,
So
when
it's
that
a
thing-
you can
when
just have this as a phased in
more
process.
by,
Mhm.
So it seems to me that we have at least a backup plan for that.
And that, there will be other grants, there'll be other funding, and one of the parts of this program is like, we're service providers, so once we get you enrolled and get your first grant in, we're pretty much done. CEBE does have this, has Tony, that we've got some extra funding from somewhere else to fund him, so if you want help later down the road, like adding to the system or whatever, we can provide some assistance there. But there's also a regional coordinator, there's 4 of them in the state.
You're done, so that if in 6 months we wanted to apply for some more, we're on our own.
Yeah, you can hire us to help you. Or you can go to the regional coordinator for assistance. They won't write the grants for you because the one person's got like a quarter of the state, but they can help you. And they'll also, you can get on this email list and there's all this other funding coming from the Inflation Reduction Act.
We already, we did that.
Yeah, but the regional coordinators are putting out like all these emails every 2 weeks, like check this grant, check this funding, do you need this, do you need that? So it's going to be a lot of opportunities that are tied into this program that aren't this grant, they are not community action grants. But this will get you going for sure. So I think we're pretty good, right? You guys chose those 2, you're going to add to your resolution, get that passed. These are the 3 things that we want to look at for our priorities, and we'll start trying to generate some estimates. We'll get up here and look at the building, see how much with our square footage is. These guys can do it right off of like Google Earth. They can figure out exactly the whole layout of the thing. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that software they've got to do that. And then we'll look at, we'll get them up here to look at what it would take to put heat pumps in here and how that would work, and we'll put together a budget. And
It seems like a good place to start.
yeah, I think it's absolutely a great place to start. You won't get a lot of blowback from anybody because it's saving the town a ton of money. It's going to reduce,
Long term.
Yeah, the price tag is nothing.
and the price tag is 0.
I mean, you know.
It's a heck of a
It's
deal.
hard to argue
Well,
with.
is that, in the town, there's, we can offer these places like a pool space. Some in the summertime, well.
Yeah, old folks that have medical conditions, when it's 95 degrees and they don't have air conditioning, that's when people die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened all over the place.
They could have air conditioning, you don't want to run it because they don't have money.
Right. Where it breaks down or whatever, yeah.
Give us tons.
Yeah. I mean, it's already happened in Europe. It happened in the Pacific Northwest. 1,000 people died up there from heat.
In the Pacific Northwest, I mean.
British Columbia.
British Columbia, people were dropping like flies and going.
So I think they said over.
Yeah, Texas has got snow and Seattle, Washington's 118 degrees. We're getting weird. Any other final questions? I feel like we've got a game plan.
We did bring snacks there.
Oh yeah, there's snacks in there.
In the kitchen?
Yeah.
I ask you guys a quick question, does this also do things like upgrading this building with the bathroom? Upgrading bathrooms or anything?
No, this is all like kind of resilient stuff. If you, yeah, I don't know. There's nothing in here about like plumbing stuff, but say you wanted to install some kind of like composting system that's going to save the town money and put, fertilize your food forest or something. You could create a plan that would do that, but in terms of just like upgrading plumbing, not this grant.
In terms of the security and safety, talking about road and setting up for heating and
Right,
cooling.
because one of the things we're having, one of the things I'm having the old people in here is the bathroom. Well, but when we had to replace the toilet, I had a senior friendly toilet put in. But it's still.
But
not-
I see where you're going, where you're getting to. If you wanted to create this as a public emergency shelter.
Right.
Yeah, you could probably design in like, you're gonna need bigger bathroom, you're gonna need certain kind of facilities to do that.
Access.
I mean, we've got the grant, we have the grant in, so people can get into the building. So just follow, let's think like we already got enough person, that really has a real shit. Because they come in and it's like, then you gotta renew the right way, it's 20 point turn.
Here, so it's recorded, but it's notion of a heating cooling center. With this, yeah.
But the bathroom much less so.
Just saying it's gonna be a challenge. They don't allow it. Oh, no, I'm sure it worked. I mean, here's a room, it's a huge challenge. Make it big amount.
You're gonna say, yeah, if you've got 50 people, you know, in here trying to keep from freezing to death, or if it's 110 degrees out for days and you got people camped out in here. I mean, more than that. Right?
The bus. I mean, you know.
And we're gonna see it. We're gonna see it.
At
At some point.
Yeah,
well, we have to set up the whole section in the kitchen.
would. But what do you
More,
more?
plus what?
Or what do we use that for anymore?
Well, among other things, going down to the sun.
Oh, but I meant. That's in part of the closet right next to that.
Oh, the cover, one of those letters that wasn't up there, and then cut it off, that's where the window of the kitchen is, so the big top.
Any other questions?
But that was the exact window, and I think, it was when we first did it, because you need to be able to actually have the breeze blowing through the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, there's no cross breeze.
Do you guys, any of that paperwork that you don't want, that you're just gonna toss, you can just give it back to me and I'll recycle. I mean,
Well, you know,
these things you might as well keep because these are specific. Yeah, those are specific to you anyway.
And you can take this, because I did not use that. And.
This is specifically.
The other one is
Have
like-
it in the- you can get some of the rest of it.
But I scribbled on it when I was making my mark.
Okay.
So unfortunately.
But you guys all have the list of community actions for next round, and this is all available on the state website too. So when you're looking to get
Can I
rid
see what we're talking about?
it's the list of the 71 actions.
Oh, yeah, I have it, it's at home. as well.
But it's-
in my phone, so.
Okey-dokey. Well, good work. We will get back to you with like a synopsis of all of this. And then we'll start getting the estimates together. And if you guys get the resolution passed, we'll get you enrolled in the next month or so. And then we'll get the grant in on time.
Awesome.
And hopefully we'll have by next heat wave, maybe you'll have heat pumps and we'll have your election will be a little.
Was he pumped to Sumner decided on?
Have any questions, Darryl? Fully decided. Oh, can you guys just sign in so this, so we know? Back in this area. You. Another great thing about putting solar on the building here is it will inspire people in the town to want it. Like, how does that work? And then they'll be like, oh, you mean I can do that on my house?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that it did somebody.
Oh my God. Oh, no, I hear it all the time, like, oh, but if you have solar on your house, you have to have batteries because otherwise your electricity will go off when the sun's not shining. I'm like, oh, it's like net metering. What do you mean net metering? Like, they just,
Yeah, I guess there's a lot.
there's a lot of people that
I get
don't.
spot to it.
I'm just.
Let me sign you in.
If anybody's interested in what CEBE does, we have these little brochures here. You wanna?
Copy what you email.
She loves these little megally.
We've been around for 10 years, believe it or not, in Norway, Maine. Doing
Right downtown.
right downtown on Main Street. We're about to move though. In the next year, I think we're gonna move
890.
to the new Tannery Street Art Center building.
Oh,
890.
Down at the brewery, Don McLean's place.
Don McLean's place.
He had built the old snowshoe factory, the old snowcraft snowshoe factory.
I have a pair of those Norway snowshoes and they're numbered.
Whoa.
I just got
How do you
them
get it back
today.
in line?
You just joined the mailing list, by the way. Congratulations.
In that factory, to this day, there's pieces of that wood.
Yeah,
There's all these leather strips.
yeah.
There's these little piles of varnish where they would hang the snowshoes up and let them
Yeah.
drip. It's all still there.
That's
It's
the
like,
essential, right? Where they're gonna do stuff, outside stuff too.
yeah, It's,
I know.
Don calls it the Norway Cultural and Arts Center. Cultural Innovation Center or something.
Factory, but you're not old enough to remember that. They used to water the logs and stuff, but they used to.
Do you have any questions? In,
Remember that?
in Paris? In, West
In-
Paris? Oh, in Norway, no, I don't, I've only been around Norway for 40 years,
Well,
a newcomer,
at the-
Only for how long?
40 years, 42.
On the end of Pleasant Street. Before you get to where the little bridge is, where the outlets in Norway Lake, there used to be a gas station there, there used to be a guy in a buckboard. On the top of the roof that used to move like this when I was a little kid.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody remember that?
When was this? What?
In Norway.
What was he powered by?
I don't know, that was a little
Wind?
gas station and that guy.
Electric.
It must be electric and, you know, and that guy used to be up there with a little whip and he would be whipping this little horse. It was on the top of a gas station. I was little, it was so cute. Like, oh, we got the behind it.
And you of course remember Barjo's then.
I do, that was
Electric
the first
mix of
one. I
food.
never went to a mine, one. Barjo's.
Barjo's and the other thing is, there was a place down in, not only was there, the one saying it was Goodman's,
Yeah.
but there was a place called the Elegant. And they always named it. Yeah, oh, my grandfather used to. My father would get such fun with the animals for Russell Service Station over. We used to pass through there on our way to skiing, and it was, I remember the Elegant Park now.
I was so excited when they put Pleasant Mountain back to Pleasant Mountain. Was Shiny Peak, they changed it from Pleasant Mountain to Shiny Peak. And,
Yes, I remember that.
and,
You get your ice cream or something.
it's been that kind of day.
Yeah, not anymore. Well, I had my ice cream on the last time. So, you know, don't forget that.
I was running late because
I see that.
most bodies were a lot in and out of that car. I'm ready right now. I'm in bed.
Can I have a ride with you?
Absolutely.
Tim dropped me off, I was hoping.
Oh, my gosh.
Already on the mail list.
There's 3 heat pumps at Gammon's nursery. You know where that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're on Route 4 heading into Auburn.
Yep, in one of their greenhouses, and they have the outside part of a heat pump is a thing on the outside of the building.
Right.
And they found out that they have to put cover ceilings over those because the weather. Because it's right near the roof, so if stuff falls
Oh,
off.
I
it
know,
goes onto it.
even though.
They build those little walls at the top.
Yeah,
Wow.
they do need it. They
Yeah,
do
he
need
was
it.
not,
They do need it.
he was not impressed with them.
No,
I'll have to talk to
well,
him.
he's trying to get a greenhouse with like.
Renee,
What's that?
These are some notorious,
did you see the chats that Darren had here?
Yeah, I'm talking to this.
Yeah.
Must be,
Yeah.
or you need to.
See,
Yeah,
he-
yeah, that was the last. Yeah. So I put a dot down for him.
But
for
I think that he
solar.
for
Yeah.
greenhouse. Seems like it's a challenge,
We got it.
special kind of challenge.
Well, the first solar panel stuff they were.
Well, shut down.
On some front that they didn't realize, they didn't have a ton of space between them, when it was not.
Well, shut.
You want to put chairs, they were back on the work, or they set up. First,
It's gonna be everything tomorrow. And, you know, I don't care, you know, we'll be in here. And it seems to me that these stairs could be straightened out, they're gonna have to set out here for a meeting. Okay, so these are really.
Any other questions, Darrell?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
I'm just really glad to hear the direction the town is going with this potential project. That sounds like it could really come to be.
Yeah, you hope so. Hey, I guess that's the end of it. I mean, we will see you later. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
This is the first time we've been to entirely run my limit. So one of the things.
Yeah.